changing the fair dates is not something that we started discussing just overnight. It's something that's been a very long, ongoing discussion for many years, since before Lisa and I even got on the fair board. It's been something that has been a very large discussion. So the first step that we took years ago was that we talked to ODA about, can we open earlier? So can we open on Thursday or Friday, or can we go a little bit later? And unfortunately, there is state regulations that say that we cannot. We can't overlap adjoining fairs, so we've got Noble and Morgan on either side of us that say, unless we have permission from those fairs, we cannot overlap them. So the discussion kind of died, and it's kind of continued throughout the years, but didn't move any farther than that.
So we've not only met with the ODA about adding more days to our fair, we've also, when they told us no, we also met with the different schools in Washington County to see if maybe they would give the kids off Friday or Tuesday, or if they would push back starting school until after Labor Day to kind of give some more flexibility for families. But that wasn't something that they were interested in doing either. So that kind of died out too. So we started receiving and exploring to get feedback from our community, vendors, businesses, buyers, families, what they thought about the time of fair. After hearing feedback from a lot of the community, we heard a lot of, we think you should move the fair days.
We also got feedback saying it's always been Labor Day weekend. Does it always have to be the same? Is there change developing? Yes, there definitely is change developing, and we're hoping that this is one way that we can change and still be prosperous.
Yeah, there's very few fairs in the state of Ohio that operate on 3 days alone. So that is difficult too, and not being able to add any days to where we are now has kind of led us to the discussion of, okay, maybe we need to move. So in the last couple months, we met with the Department of Agriculture. They're the ones who set the stipulations of when you can have your fair and how long you can have your fair. And first we asked again, we said, can we get more days on either end? And the answer was no again, for good reasons. And so then we moved on to explore the options of moving our fair date. So there was a lot of discussion, a lot of, we didn't want to step on toes. We did not want to interfere with Barlow and Waterford's fair, as we're already pretty close together. We didn't want to interfere with State Fair because we knew that there were a lot of kids that took animals there, and we knew that there were a lot of kids that would want to take the opportunity to go to State Fair in the future. We didn't want it to be too early to interfere with our agriculture community, planting and all that. And we really wanted to stay away from the school year. We didn't want our fair to be during school. So then we went on to we came up with some ideas of where we might move to. We talked to Extension about how that would work with camp and some of the other activities that the kids are involved with during those midsummer months.
We'll talk a bit about the time that we've decided and why we've decided to move it earlier and get away from the Labor Day weekend. Labor Day is a time where a lot of people take vacations. They want to be with their families and they have some time off. They can go to it. I don't know if I really want to go to the fair every year, some will say. This is an opportunity where the kids still would be out of school, could bring their animals to the fair, spend the week at the fair, sell the animals at the end of the fair. And yes, it might be inconvenient if you were a working person. You said, well, a show is this day at a certain time, but I believe we're really working on trying to fix that part to where the shows can be later in the day. You may have to take a day off. Saturday was probably going to be the sale. So chances are you have the day off. And I believe it would all kind of come together as, yes, it was a nice project that I had a week to showcase it.
Yeah, so this wasn't something we decided overnight either. This was something we really took into consideration, a lot of factors before we decided, hey, we think this is the best move for our fair.
Hi, I'm Emily Griffin. I'm the treasurer of the Washington County Fair Board, and this year will be the start of my 5th year on the Fair Board.
And I'm Mark Ullman. This will be my 3rd year on the Fair Board.
We get asked many times about the financial status of the Fair Board, so we thought we would share with you guys a little look over the last 3 to 4 years of where we were. We've been fortunate in the last couple of years to really move the Fair Board in a positive direction with the board working together, but that always hasn't been the case. In 2021 and 2022, the board saw a loss over the last couple of years. I believe it was 22 and 23. We suffered anywhere from a $35,000 to a $50,000 loss. When I came on the board and took over as treasurer, we had about $2,000 in the bank and $40,000 worth of bills to pay. So we worked together, we cut every corner that we could, we fundraised like no other, and we were able to pull through and really turn ourselves around. In 24, we were fortunate enough to have a profit of about $100,000, and this year we are looking to trend a little bit lower, around the $90,000, $95,000 range. We in the past, the state has gave funding to fairs to be able to put a fair on. Last year, we were fortunate enough, we got $50,000 from the state, as do the other county fairs in the state of Ohio. And they also give us $3,300 for junior fair. In 2025, we did not get that funding. So we didn't have that $50,000 to put into the fair like we had in the past years. It was a blessing that we got it last year, or truth be told, we would have not even been able to probably put a fair on. So there's been a lot of different factors that have contributed into us moving forward and being, just blessed and be able to
be where we are now.
and overcome the hurdles that we faced. I think one of the biggest things is that, and people don't realize, and the community don't realize, the expenses that we have as a board. Right now, we're setting on expense revenue of about $445,000. That's with fair expenses, and that's just with overhead and upkeep with everything. Utilities and insurance alone cost us over $100,000 here, and we have, other than a few fundraisers, the fair is what allows us to be able to operate throughout the year. So even though we're a nonprofit, we still have to make money to be able to keep the lights on, let's say. Do you want to talk about some?
We've been lucky that we also get revenue through off-season rentals. We rent buildings out during the off-season, which has been a big help, but the fair revenue is the major portion of the funding stream, and we have to have people through the gate to make that work.
Yeah. Last year in 24, we saw about 11,000 people come through the gates, and that's, 3 days mainly. We do have the 4th day, but we don't have much traction come through on Tuesday. And we did, deal with rain, but this year we had, about 12,500 people come through, which the weather was perfect. Like we couldn't have asked for a better weather, and we probably will never see anything like that again. We did have a profitable fair this year. We saw about a revenue of about $85,000, which was great compared to, I think when I first got on the board, we were seeing like $20,000, $25,000. So it's really increased, and that does go to, the effects with the efforts of our community. But it does cost us a lot to put on the fair. In 2025, it cost us about $350,000 to put on our fair. And that includes our rides and our midway events, grandstand events, harness racing. Does include harness racing money, but that also is an expense that we get paid out. everybody talks about our rides. They want better rides. Rides right now for what we have cost us about $40,000, and the grandstand events and the midway were about 50. So we're anywhere from $80,000 to $90,000 just in grandstand events and a ride company. And then we have just all the other expenses, the utilities, the EMS and fire. There's oh gosh, what else? Oh, like rentals of equipment and just all different kinds of things that we have. Total expenditures for the year this year were $270,000 roughly for a fair. So that's how we derived from the about the $85,000 profit.
As far as ride companies, when I got on the fair board, that was one of the things I really wanted to do, was get back to ride companies like we used to have here. The problem is I've learned more about ride companies since I've been on the fair board, and it's just not that easy to call somebody up and say, hey, come to our fair. Ride companies are very limited on dates. There's very few ride companies left. Some of them have gone out of business. They're just not available to get. Some of the ride companies we've talked to won't even talk to you about coming here for less than $75,000, $80,000. So it makes it tough when you're only running a 3-day fair. If we get to running a 4, 5, 6-day fair, we may be able to up the ante on rides and get some better rides in here. And that's what I would really like to see happen, and make the fair really good for more people.
Yeah, and that's what we'll talk about it later in more detail. But rides obviously are our number one factor from a lot of people. We see that all the time. We want better rides. We want better rides. Well, that's why we ended up going. That was one of the reasons why we went with changing the dates, is hoping to be able to provide a better ride company for the community, and that's more cost efficient for us.
Because they still have the expense of setting up and tearing down, and that, whether you're bringing in revenue for 3 days or revenue for 5 days, that expense is still the same.
Yeah.
Anything else on that?
Like Emily said, we've had a couple really good years, but that's not been the norm. There's been days where it's rained 3 of the 4 days rather than have good weather for all 4 days. This year we was really, really lucky because we had good weather and we had cool weather where the electricity wasn't near as high, running air conditioning, things like that. But that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of extenuating circumstances that can happen to change the direction of the finances going up or down.
So one of the questions that we saw was asked a lot was, this affects the kids that want to exhibit the animals at the state fair. Currently, right now in 2027, the Ohio State Fair will start July 28th of 27, and our fair will end July 17th of 27. So that gives a 11-day window between our fair and the state fair. Currently, right now in Ohio, there are 22 fairs that overlap the state fair. So we are not the only fair in Ohio that is in the frame of the state fair, but we actually don't overlap, where there's, like I said, 22 that do. Right now, currently, fairs start in June and they go clear through October of each year. And in Ohio, we have 36 that are currently in July. So again, we're not the only ones that are facing the issue of kids exhibiting at the county fair and at the state fair. There are some fairs in Ohio that a kid has to choose between state fair and county fair. So we feel by having the dates that we picked, we're giving the kids an option to still exhibit at both. I know many ask about the animals because they're taking their animals for county fair and they're showing them at the state fair. We felt that this is something that we looked at very hard too, and we felt with our fair ending in July and the state fair being around that time frame, that allows kids to be able to finish all their projects out at the same time. Most kids have a spare animal, so they can take that spare animal and they can that they don't take to the county fair, and they can take that spare animal and then they can take it to state fair and exhibit it there and be on the same feeding schedule as their county fair animal. And we are pretty fortunate to have quite a few kids in the county that exhibit at the state fair, but overall however many exhibitors we have, I was hoping to have that exact number and I don't, unfortunately, but we have about 30 kids that take animals to the county fair, but that they also exhibit to the state fair. So we feel that this is a good move to be able to still allow the kids to take their animals to the county fair and give them the option to, finish that animal out at the state fair if they wish.
Another issue we hear complaints about and suggestions about is entertainment during our fair. The problem we have is our fair is over a holiday weekend, so a lot of the people, Soil and Water, AEP, that do demonstrations and things don't want to pay their people overtime to come work here and pay holiday pay to work on Monday the holiday. So that kind of limits us on some of the things that we can get. Same thing with acts as far as getting bands or anything like that. It's a holiday weekend. Some of them, they don't want to travel and perform on the holidays, so it makes it a little tougher to get entertainment like that also. Same thing with local entertainment. We have traveling acts like princesses that walk around and things like that. It over holidays, it's just a little tougher to get them. So by moving these dates, it should allow us to get more variety of entertainment and things that we can do during the fair.
And to go along with what Mark was saying about entertainment, our ride company, again, we've talked about this several times already, but it seems to be one of the biggest things we see. We have a very hard time getting a ride company because the way our fair is currently set up, it overlaps like 2 weeks for the ride company. So we are only utilizing them for 3 to 4 days, but we have to still pay for that period of time, and then that's another reason why we're limited on the options that we have for ride companies, is because nobody wants to come and waste 2 weeks of profit for them in a 3 or 4 day period. So that's another reason why we thought about moving the dates.
I mean, there are ride companies out there that have more rides for bigger kids and more rides for small kids, but the availability of them our weekend of the fair right now during Labor Day is very, very limited. I've talked to a bunch of them trying to find something that'll work, and it's just not there to be had.
We're going to take a minute to address the question of voting, whether the membership as a whole should have voted on the change of the fair dates. The answer is the membership does not have to vote on the change of the fair dates. So we are governed by our Red Book, the laws and rules of the Ohio Department of Agriculture for fairs, and we are governed by our Constitution. In our Constitution, there is nowhere that specifically says the Washington County Fair is held Labor Day weekend. This is our most recent Constitution. It was approved and certified by the entire membership in 2022. It does say that the election for the board of directors needs to be held on Labor Day of the annual fair each year for so many hours. So this is something that we would look into changing in the future if we want to have our election the same time as our county fair, because it is specified that it is on Labor Day every year. So ultimately, though, you can also look in our Constitution in Article 6, that says fair dates. It says the board of directors shall fix the dates for the annual exposition of the association, subject to the approval of the Ohio Director of Agriculture, which is also how the Red Book reads, that the fair dates are approved by the Director of Agriculture. So another concern we saw was about the length of the fair, moving from 3 days to 5 days, and how much more time off of work that would cause people to have to take. So what we're aiming for is a more spread out schedule. Right now we have 10 species of animals that we show at the fair, and we pack all of those market classes, showmanship classes into 3 days. That's a lot, and that is why we are so busy all weekend. So ultimately, with a 5-day fair, what we'd like to do is spread them out, maybe one species a day or so, 2 species a day, but so that we just weren't packing those back to back the whole week. This would give flexibility for parents as far as they only maybe have to take the day of the show off. You know, unless you wanted to be here all week, you wouldn't have to be here all week. That way you have more time to spend with your kiddos doing free activities like the rides and the games. So we're really working towards a schedule that will allow for more flexibility, that won't make you have to take every single day off of work if you don't want to, or if you don't feel the need to.
So one of the biggest aspects that we have thought about is the animals, right? So we are a huge on our junior fair, and a huge aspect of our fair is revolved around the animal portion, and how are we going to adjust this with the July fair? So honestly, it is difficult for us a lot of times to find some animals that are going to be finished in the later fairs, because there's so many fairs that are in the middle of the year. So we have exhibitors that have difficulty in finding animals for our fair anyway. So we believe moving this up a little bit to a July fair will open you up to more breeders, more animals that you can possibly find your way for. We are already meeting with the livestock committee, senior fair board members, and extension office in discussing rules for the 2027 fair. We're looking at adjusting possession dates, breeding dates, and fair weights for your animals. So that's not a concern. We're adjusting things accordingly. We have 601 days to look at these rules and discuss them, and we will announce them as soon as we have them.
Now you get to talk about the heat.
Okay. I'm here to talk about the heat. Summertime gets hot. The average temperature in July, mid-July, is 85 degrees. We've had 85 degrees on Labor Day. We have accommodations at our fair. The cattle barn has beautiful fans up there, a lot of cooling towers. We have a building here that used to be called the Home Arts Building that's fully air conditioned. We did not even have the opportunity to really use it this year because our fair in September was cool. We've had it hot both times. We've had it cool both times. It's something that you have to live with.
And we are updating the electricity in the cattle barn, or the multi-purpose barn. So we will be able to accommodate more fans, more blowers, all of that. By our 2027 fair, we'll have all the updates done. We're also excited to announce that in 2026, we will be introducing market gilts and breeding gilts into our fair exposition. We wanted to open the opportunity up for exhibitors and not limit the number of species or animals that they can take to our fair, and just open it for people that maybe don't have an interest in some of the species that we already exhibit here at the fair into the hog industry to bring to our county fair.
Yeah. There's still a lot of unknowns as far as rules and all that, which they're in the works. The extension office and our department and livestock committee are currently working on those. We hope to wrap those up soon. They'll probably be out by the first of the year with the schedule and stipulations for that. And housing, we have some options in place for that as well. So depending on the numbers, I guess that'll kind of tell us where we're going to put everything. But we're excited for the opportunity and the opportunity that the kids will have from this, and it'll just be another way for us to continue to grow the fair.
Yep. Just remember, at the end of the day, the kids are our goal. So we are here for our junior fair exhibitors, for the kids, and for them to learn new skills and new aspects of agriculture. So this is just another industry for them to dab into a little bit. That's a little bit different from everything else that we have here. So we just want everybody to have all the resources and capabilities that they can have in a place to exhibit them as well.
It's exciting. The board realizes that they are not perfect and that this change may not be the perfect solution to save our beloved Washington County Fair. However, the board does know the fair is only as successful as the community allows it to be. If we continue to be negative, tear it down, and not support change, then you have accomplished your goal of seeing the Washington County Fair fail, not the Fair Board's goal. Change is opportunity. The outcome is what you make it. As the Fair Board continues to find ways for the Washington County Fair to be a staple for the community and a standing event for the agricultural industry, we ask for you to be supportive, open-minded, and give us a chance to prove that change can be good.